Hey there, welcome back to Recap and Summaries. Today, we're diving into the 2001 movie known as Bubble. But before we jump into the details, make sure to show us some love by liking the video, leaving a comment, and, of course, subscribing to the channel if you're into the commentary. Now, let's get right into it. The main story of this movie is about a person who has no immune system. That is, if the person is outside, any germs will kill him. Normal people have immunity, but the movie guy has nothing like that. It was a super hit movie of that time. So let's start explaining the movie. At the beginning of the movie we see a baby being placed inside a bubble, so that no small germ can come to the baby. The child is always kept in an isolation room to prevent airborne germs from reaching him. The child could not touch anything. If the child wanted to touch anything, it was sterilized and placed in front of the child. This child's name is Jimmy and his mother's name is Mrs. Livingston. Mrs. Livingston cared for her son so much that she did not allow anyone to come to their house. Next, when Jimmy is 4 years old, we see the kid's parents bringing him home in a bubble. A big bubble was also made in Jimmy's room because Jimmy had to stay in this room. Inside this bubble, the child used to do all his daily activities. For example, playing sports, eating food, etc. Inside the bubble were two protective hands with which Jimmy's parents would touch him. Jimmy's parents were novel-type people, so they taught him what they thought was right. Jimmy is not taught or informed about the outside world. In short, Jimmy is being raised by his parents as their own. We then see some neighborhood kids who name Jimmy Bubble Boy. Children used to come in front of Jimmy's house and make fun of him. But Jimmy didn't understand anything because Jimmy didn't have any feelings of good or bad. Jimmy's food was also sterilized. And that's how Jimmy turned 16 years old. Next we see Jimmy go to the window and see a girl. The girl who came to rent their house, and this girl's name is Chloe. Seeing this girl, Jimmy has a different feeling. But inside Jimmy there were no feelings of love or pain. But Jimmy's mother realizes that a change is coming inside Jimmy, for which Jimmy's mother tells him that there is no attraction between a boy and a girl. These are your wrong thoughts. But Jimmy has been watching Chloe through that window for years. And what Chloe realizes is that Jimmy always sees me. So Chloe starts to like Jimmy. Then one morning Jimmy realizes he's having a feeling like no other. Means his nunu stands up, and on top of it Jimmy gives house without understanding. And here a funny situation arises. Later, Jimmy's mother comes and calms Jimmy down by telling him different things. Chloe's friends, on the other hand, made fun of Jimmy by calling him Bubble Boy. But Chloe didn't like it when Chloe's friend made fun of Jimmy. Chloe even got angry at times about it. Then one day Chloe comes over to Jimmy's house and Jimmy's mother lets her in. Chloe comes in to find plastic tubes all over the house. Chloe is surprised to see this and goes to Jimmy's house, and Jimmy is also very scared to see Chloe. Because till date Jimmy had never seen any girl so close except his mother. Chloe then talks a lot with Jimmy. Chloe also says, "I like the way you play the guitar." Hearing this, Jimmy teaches Chloe to play the guitar with plastic hands. Thus they both met every day and had a good time. Jimmy's mother doesn't like this, but Jimmy's mother doesn't say anything about it. But after Chloe leaves, Jimmy's mother sanitizes everything. Chloe then presents Jimmy with a plastic guinea pig for his birthday. Some of the kids are dressed up and brought in front of Jimmy to explain what Halloween is all about. After a few days of this, Chloe gets drunk and tries to get inside Jimmy's bubble and tells Jimmy, "I can't live without you anymore." But even then, Jimmy does not allow chlorine to enter, because if chlorine enters, Jimmy can die from bacterial infection. Chloe is very upset at not being allowed in and leaves crying. And Chloe realizes she can never have Jimmy. No one can live with Jimmy and the kind of illness he has. So Chloe breaks her heart and decides to marry a boy named Mark. And the next day Chloe goes to Jimmy's house and shows him the ring lying on his hand and says that my marriage is fixed. Hearing this, Jimmy feels a lot of pain, but Jimmy does not reveal it. We then see Jimmy return Chloe's gift, leaving Chloe in pain and crying. So after a while Jimmy opens another gift passed by Chloe to find a show back that says "I love you." Jimmy is surprised and happy at the same time. By the time Jimmy realizes Chloe loves him, it's too late. Because Chloe has gone beyond the purpose of marriage. So Jimmy thinks he can no longer be trapped in this bubble. Either way, we have to get out of here and get chlorine. Then with a lot of effort, he made himself a portable bubble that can be moved everywhere. After that, Jimmy went out for the first time without telling his parents. And seeing the sky, wind, earth, people outside, he is very happy. Jimmy then arrives at the bus stand and asks for a ticket. When the ticket seller asks for money, Jimmy remembers that he forgot to bring the money. So he was going back home to fetch money when suddenly a car came and hit him, but because Jimmy was inside the bubble he was not hurt. The car that hit Jimmy was going to celebrate a religious festival. They come out to help Jimmy, but when they come out they are all surprised. Hearing Jimmy's call for help, everyone helped him and lifted him into the car. When they talk about religion and ask Jimmy, Jimmy says I don't know anything about it. So he started talking about the Creator. So everyone angrily pushes Jimmy out of the car. In the next scene we see the pious people when they approach their Pir Sahib, who says there is a man in Babylon who you need to help. Hearing this, they feel ashamed and go out to find Jimmy. On the other hand, Jimmy meets a biker named Slip. And Jimmy confesses his love to Slip, which hurts him. So Slip gets emotional. He also tells about his first love, that I also still love a girl for whom I am not married yet. By talking like this, they became very good friends. And so the two set out to find Jimmy's love, Chloe. On the other hand, Jimmy's parents did not find him at home. They called the police and the police said that Jimmy would be found after 24 hours. Hearing this from the police, Jimmy's parents themselves went out to find their son. On the other hand, Jimmy and Sleep arrive in Las Vegas, a city known as Sin City. Both come to this city and enter a club and start having fun. But Jimmy didn't like it because Chloe was getting married in 2 days. So Jimmy steals someone's bike, leaving the Slip. After some distance, Jimmy saw his parents' car. Jimmy's parents try to stop him, but Jimmy ignores them and continues to walk away. Due to this haste, Jimmy once again has an accident, and due to the bubble in his body, Jimmy falls inside a train. Inside the train, Jimmy sees strange people. And those people talk about a man named Mr. Freddy, who is the one who has us imprisoned here. And with us, the man made the circus. Jimmy is then met by Mr. Freddy. Mr. Freddy was actually a dwarf, so Jimmy hit him and threw him away. And frees the rest of the members without his knowledge. And then Jimmy goes out again to look for Chloe, but now he doesn't have the bike. Then we see Jimmy enter a restaurant where some American cops are teasing an Indian. So Jimmy sees the matter and thinks he has to help the man, so Jimmy goes to the police officer and says that there are a lot of germs in this bubble, that if you release you all could die. Hearing this, everyone got scared and fled from there, and the restaurant caught fire, and the Indian man saved Jimmy and took him in his truck. And Jimmy goes out to reach his love. On the other hand, Jimmy's parents reach out to Freddy the dwarf, looking for him. When told about Jimmy, Freddy the dwarf says he is going to Niagara. Hearing this, Jimmy's mother realizes that Jimmy is going to Chloe's wedding. So Jimmy's mom calls Chloe and blames Chloe for losing Jimmy. Meanwhile, Jimmy and the truck driver have an accident with a cow on their way to Niagara. And the Indian man cried a lot on this because we all know Hindu people respect cow very much. Seeing this, Jimmy tells his mother that it is not right to accept any animal as God or creator. Hearing this, the Indian got very angry and threw him out of the car. Jimmy then walks to a town where he finds a club. And to this club he goes for help. On the other hand, Sleep approaches the Indian truck driver, and after hearing everything about Jimmy, they all go out with a car to find him. Meanwhile, in the club that Jimmy entered, 2 girls were having a wrestling match. Everyone thinks Jimmy wears these costumes for fun. So the girls jokingly put Jimmy in the middle and try to burst his bubble. So Jimmy somehow managed to escape there. Jimmy is then shown the pious men who force Jimmy to take him to them, but by then the biker Slips also arrive and a fight breaks out between the 2 groups over Jimmy. Seeing this, Jimmy quietly ran away and saw an old man's car on the signal. Jimmy shows the old man the money and gets into his car and falls asleep in the car. When Jimmy wakes up in the morning, he finds the car running fine but the old man dead. Then their car crashes into a wall, and Jimmy falls into a shop. And there Jimmy gets a phone that Jimmy calls Chloe, but Mark answers the call. Mark tells Jimmy, "You lost and we're getting married in an hour." This hurts Jimmy a lot and he gets depressed, and Jimmy calls his mother and asks him to take her from there. After some time Jimmy's parents came there and put him in the car. When Jimmy's mother goes to the washroom, Jimmy's father tells her, "How do you feel when you come out for the first time?" Jimmy's father also says that if you start something, you should not be disappointed until it is finished. We should try our best. Jimmy is inspired by what his father has to say, so he rushes off to meet Chloe. Then Jimmy turns back to see the pious man's car, Slipper's logjam, his parents all following him. While they were chasing like this, they entered an airport without realizing it. And Jimmy gets on a plane and Jimmy sees the old man on the plane helping Jimmy. But suddenly the plane falls into the water and Jimmy somehow manages to come up alive. And quickly arrived at the charge where Chloe and Mark were getting married. Seeing this, Jimmy screams and tells Chloe you don't get married, and tells her feelings and love in front of Chloe. Jimmy then tears off his bubble to kiss Chloe just once, risking his life to kiss Chloe. In no time all the surrounding germs attack Jimmy and Jimmy falls unconscious. In fact, Jimmy did not have any such disease. Jimmy's mother told Jimmy's father that she did such a drama to protect herself from these bad people. Jimmy fainted because of the fear of this germ. Jimmy regained consciousness after many attempts. When he heard these truths about him, he became very angry with his mother, and after some time he forgave his mother. Chloe and Jimmy then hug each other, and a few months later we see them marrying each other. We also see that Jimmy's wedding invites all the people whose help Jimmy reached out to Chloe. The movie ends with this story. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy it. Please do subscribe so that you can get notification when the new video come out.